And I am joined by the incomparable Nicole Johan Rand. Thanks for coming back on the show. Happy to see you.
Oh, I'm glad to see you again, Jamie. We saw each other last week.
Yeah,
So
not that long ago on set.
yeah,
And I wish we were talking under better circumstances
right.
with the SAG strike now official and everything going down. Um, but you, I think, Nicole, are a perfect example of why we are on strike and why it is so needed at this point. Can you tell people a little bit about how this artificial intelligence portion of what the unions and the production studios are fighting over, how that relates to you?
Yeah. So it was last year, it was in the winter, and we kept getting these calls for what they called volumetric capture. And the idea was, what we were told was, it was for the Whitney Houston movie that many of us worked on, that was being filmed in New England, mostly in the Boston area. And there were all, when you tell a Whitney Houston story, you're going to have a lot of concerts, award shows, the Super Bowl, her iconic rendition of the national anthem. So I got it at that point. I'm like, yeah, they really, I mean, I did a few crowd scenes, and there's just not enough people in the world to recreate a huge crowd, especially when we talk about something like the Super Bowl. So I spent about 4 days in a studio, and very professionally done. It was a British company, and um we were given very, specific things to do, things to wear. There was one thing I noticed: there was double-sided tape everywhere. They didn't want any of your clothes sticking out at all. So no hole, nothing where they could see. Everything had to be stuck to your body. And your hair was completely slicked back, as very right, really. I just gotten off Boston Strangler, where my hair was up and tight in these bobby pins forever, and my hair was a mess after that. And so, we almost look bald, for women doing it. And I spent, yeah, like 4 days, and they did like me because I was animated. Now, if you know me, I love the chance to just go crazy, not to act, but to actually just, they'll say,
Wild out.
cheer. Yeah, just cheer, you would normally cheer. And I was just cheering and sitting, and they had me swaying very specifically, and with a flag. And then at one point they had me with a camera on this, with this, looking around oddly. I didn't get it at the time. I was like, I don't know why they need me for this. But yeah, it was very much sold to us that this was for the Whitney Houston movie. And that was
Right.
it.
And they captured your image in
Yes.
all of these different ways, right? And
Yes.
essentially they were teaching a computer how to move you and how to, right, recreate your body and your
Right.
image.
Right.
And like so many others of us who worked on Whitney Houston, you were told that it was going to be used for that movie. But
Yes.
at any time were you told that they could take your image and recreate it without your permission into perpetuity?
Never once. Never
And
once.
is that what happened?
Yes. Somebody sent me a picture of myself in a scene. I don't know what it's from, sitting with a bunch of people who I don't know, never sat next to them, never shot the scene. It's my face and my arms. I never wore the dress that I'm quotes wearing, and my hair is a completely different color. So it just appeared. And again, I'm looking around. I do notice, one person that I know, but where where is this from? And why, and at first it was kind of silly. It's like, oh, that's funny. That's weird. Oh my God, that's like crazy. I'm not, that wasn't me. Or that's me, but I didn't do that. That's pretty amazing. But then now that's why people need to be educated as to why we are striking. And that is, we were being told one thing when the reality was completely different.
Right.
And, it's not, I mean, Leslie Jones everybody's put it very well. This is not about us whining about not getting paid enough. It's about us being kind of bamboozled and, and told one thing. And I don't blame anybody. I don't blame casting. I don't blame anybody else because they were probably told the same thing. And that this was going to be used. We're the company, and they were lovely guys. They were from the UK. And just knowing I've been scanned, and now, I have a friend who's non-union, and she was trying out for an ESPN commercial, and she's dying to get into the union. And I basically said, well, jobs like this for non-union people, crowd jobs, if we went ahead with the AI, would be obsolete. You
Right.
wouldn't need people at all. You would
Mm,
just use a bunch of people who've been scanned who aren't getting paid. You wouldn't have to pay anybody.
mm,
And when you do see those numbers, and many of us have seen them, of what the CEOs are making a year, um, it's kind of devastating. They're running a business, I understand, but they're not the talent, and they can't do it without us.
that's right.
No.
So they took your image, and a
Yes.
friend of yours found you in a show that was completely unrelated, or a film that's completely unrelated, that was not I Want to Dance with Somebody, and you were never paid for that. Um,
Not,
and
and I
that's
don't expect to be.
mhm,
Yep. I don't
exactly.
expect to be. So they do have to make a choice. It's like either pay us, logistically figure out a way to pay us for our image, which is going to be tough. I don't know how they would do that, or just keep paying us to show up.
Hmm.
So,
Exactly. I've heard a couple of proposals where it's like, well, we'll only capture you and then only use your image for that one production and then
okay, well,
dump the
that,
image. There have been a couple of proposals, or get consent and permission every time you intend to reuse that person's face.
oh,
Um, however, sort of the language that's been proposed by the producers, right, SAG-AFTRA has said that there are gaping holes in the language. Like it's so vague
right,
and inconcise that there are loopholes that you could drive a Mack truck through.
right,
Um, because say the computer takes your image and it learns to just slightly, rearrange things in a certain way, then we're looking at the same end game, right? Where they don't need background people for those kinds of scenes, and eventually those jobs start to dwindle.
right.
And so at what level are you sort of concerned? You've already seen this sort of happen for yourself. At what level are you sort of alarmed at this point?
I've become much more alarmed, that this has become, isolated incident. Okay. Again, I told you, I thought it was kind of cute. I was like, oh, that's fun, whatever. But now that this is really the reason that they're striking. I mean, there's other issues, however, and I just love what Leslie Jones said, because a lot of people think, oh, the strike is for wealthy actors who want more money, which is absolutely not. This does not affect the A-list, maybe 3% of people who are in SAG. This doesn't affect them at all. But they, as Leslie Jones said, she's showing up for our homies. She goes, I
Mm,
am showing up for, writers will write one thing and they don't keep getting paid. They get paid for what they wrote, but they don't keep getting paid after that. She goes, and whether it's background, a smaller part, what have you, it's it's not, it's people looking to make a decent living wage. It is not about making the rich richer. No, the rich are getting richer. We don't have to worry about that.
Mm.
No, we worked on the project we worked on was Warner Brothers, and they have the highest paid CEO that there is. So, and listen, I don't mind. I think we can all agree if they pour a bunch of money into a huge production. We love that because they
Yeah.
it's a lot, and it's that's not the issue. It's again the actual fact that they are making human beings obsolete, and these are human beings who want to make a living. And I've heard, move on, get another job. I've heard this, that, and the other. And it's like, fine. So then you want 85% of the industry
To
finding
go
another job,
away.
right, just to go away. And do you really think, I mean, yes, we've come a long way with AI, but to watch an entire movie that's supposed to be a realistic
Right.
movie, not a futuristic movie or not a super sci-fi movie that has all AI people, it's not perfected yet. So
No, I don't know if you've seen some of these AI movies where it's just horrifying,
yeah, it's real.
to watch with the extra fingers and the weird expressions
Right. But
and
I do
things.
fear, we get better at these things all the time. So I do have that fear that jobs are going to dwindle because, well, oh, we already got your face, or we got a million people who
Mm,
look like you. We can just slide that in. And it's, we work our butts off. I know I have qualified for the past 2 years for health insurance. So I'm one of the, 20% that get it. But last year I barely made
mm.
it by the skin of my teeth. And but I busted my ask for it. And yeah, again, people say, oh, but it's glamorous. It's okay. Have you ever sat and stood in the cold for 13 hours with no break, or stand in
Hmm.
the heat with bugs and
On a
then
hot hill getting
on a
eaten by
hill
bugs,
have,
right?
with no break?
No bathrooms.
No bathrooms. My
Right.
friend was there, she was there for 18 hours. Now, of
Oh
course,
my
she wanted
goodness.
the golden hour, which is when after 16 hours you get paid
Hmm.
the entire day per hour. So was well compensated for that, but long day.
Oh, was that one of the stand-ins? They stayed 18
Yes,
hours? Oh
yes,
my goodness.
yes.
Wow.
So we're talking, kind of back-breaking work.
Mm.
I just was able to run, I'm a competitive runner, but my feet were so swollen and blistered
Oh,
that I couldn't put
yeah.
sneakers on for days. But
Yeah.
as long as Bob Iger and everybody else is getting, their feet are fine. It's
Yeah.
I don't want to say we literally break our back. I mean, we come
We break
away,
our feet.
you've done it overnights, all of that stuff, and we come back just wasted. And
Mm.
we do it because we love it. At the end of the day, I always say, okay, that stunk, but would you do it again? Or in 3 days, are you going to talk about how awesome it was? And yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
I have not had the experience yet of going, oh, this isn't worth it anymore, because it could be bad during, but ultimately,
Mm.
again, for other people, like, okay, stop doing what you love, because you're
Right.
not getting, when you're not getting paid at sometimes at all with
Mm.
the AI, you're not getting paid at all.
Yeah. You make an excellent point to not only how difficult
Mhm.
and physically draining the background and acting can really be, um, but we make the movie.
Yeah.
If you didn't have real people in the background, we make the movie alive,
And we
right?
get a lot of
Um,
direction, don't we? I mean,
we
we get
do
a
from
lot
the.
of direction. It's not just stand there,
Hmm.
and smile. It's especially what we worked on, it was a very hot day. It was sunglasses were starting to move down people, and they had to say to us,
Hair was falling. Yeah.
falling, and they had to say, don't touch your face,
Mm.
and but again, I think of like the scene that it wasn't a huge crowd scene. there's a lot of us, but not huge. So I can't imagine how odd it would look with
If it was
AI.
all fake. Right.
Yeah, I think it would look very odd. A lot of times we'll interact with the principal actors.
Mm,
So I just, it's, and again, this is why I'm such a proud member now of SAG, because these are people, the people who are striking and making the most impact are the people who, again, the strike doesn't really, I mean, with Fran Drescher and her very, impassioned
mm,
speech, she's worth about 25 million, a lot of money. None of us would kick that out of bed, but still not what the corporate
right.
studios are making. But she was, very emotional about how people are not getting paid. And she's somebody who could, with her residuals from the nanny and everything else, she could probably live out the rest of her life fine.
Mm.
But she cared so much about the people who are struggling.
Right. Who now can't get the same kinds of residuals because of streaming and because of the way things are changing. You can't
Yeah,
live off of it anymore.
exactly. Exactly. So, it's seeing these celebrities, people who we know, again, they're making it very clear that
Mm,
most people in SAG, 160,000 people, aren't famous.
mm,
Maybe let's be conservative and say 5% are. I mean, that's really a conservative number. I'm thinking more like three or maybe
mm,
two. I mean, it's
right.
where working actors and a lot of the people, people backgrounds. You and I have both done stand-in, which is another quite difficult job. It's very demanding. You really have to be on point the entire time. And right, with AI, they're not gonna need stand-ins. Even
Mm,
some they've made cameras now that self-light. So they don't even need stand-ins for some bigger movies. It's kind of like they're chipping away at
right.
slowly at our jobs. And I just, again, it really warms my heart to have SAG so angry about this. And
Mm,
so as Leslie Jones said, that people keep coming on her page and saying, well, what about this? And what about other people? And what about their job? She goes, you no strike too. This is about corporate greed. So if you feel like you're being, effed over by a corporation, who's stopping you?
right.
So,
And I talked a little bit in the last episode of the Hub on Hollywood about Bob Iger coming
yeah,
out and saying he was so disturbed by, you know, SAG and the writers going
I'm
on
not just saying
strike.
that.
And
No,
my response to that is good. That people like that need to be disturbed right now, because what's happening is disturbing and it's
right.
not acceptable.
And he doesn't get that. Again, this is a very, very wealthy man who profits off of us. But Fran Lebowitz had a great line once. He goes, or she said, you don't make $1 billion, you steal $1 billion. Basically, and I'm not saying these men aren't intelligent, aren't, you know, but what I'm saying is they are not the talent.
Hmm.
They can't act,
Hmm.
they can't write, they can't, block a scene. They can't do any of the things
Right.
that make a movie.
And they're not going to stand on a hot hill dressed like it's the fall in the middle of July
Nope.
for 12 hours or so.
Oh,
So,
hell no. For what we make you. I mean, you see the voucher and then you get the check and the taxes, which of course we all have to pay. You're like, oh, well, that's not
yeah,
quite what I expected. But um it's
it's hard
I
work.
always say it's the toughest job I've ever loved. I
I like
do
that.
love it. I want to keep doing it, but I also want to get paid for doing it. And I'm, a single woman. I need insurance. And honestly, they make it, very tough to make insurance. I did it by the skin of my teeth. 2021 was a good year for us
Hmm.
because
But
we
then
had
it became more difficult, right, with
it,
the last contract. Yes. Yeah.
absolutely, it became a lot more difficult. So not all of that, but now they're scanning us for what we believe
Hmm.
is one thing that we've already worked on, or we're getting paid. Hey, who cares? I remember during it, I was like, okay. And they
Yeah.
have specific outfits for specific events, for the Grammy Awards, for the American Music Awards. This is for the Super Bowl. This is for this. And so you're like, oh, you're playing along. You're like, okay, this
Mm.
is just like being a part of the movie, just
Yeah.
in a different, in a different atmosphere. And yeah, we got paid our SAG minimum,
Right.
and not knowing that, okay, now this company owns our images.
Right.
I don't know which company it was, but they now
Mm.
own our. I
Your
mean, I
face.
don't know
Yeah.
if we
Mhm.
signed anything that said that was okay. We probably did, because who reads this stuff?
Right. All the
No
fine
one
print.
reads.
Hmm.
No one reads those long ass, things. We just go, all right, here. I don't know. That's another thing. They don't make it clear.
Right.
Purpose.
So what would you like to see happen? Now we're just starting in on this strike. I don't know if you read the article in Deadline where
Oh
the
God.
studio execs were like, "Yeah, we're just going to starve them out. We're just going to wait till people start losing their houses and
Yeah.
and all that." What do you want to see happen? And and talk a little bit about that.
I want to see, I understand there's a need for AI in a lot of things. Transparency with that. Either, again, figure out a way to pay us for our image. Figure out a way. That's, I mean, either do that or stop with the whole AI stuff and just
Hmm.
let us do what we did before AI, which was, a year ago or 2 years ago. That seemed okay, because honestly, just to make insurance, I will do anything. I'm not above anything. I mean, there's some stuff as we get older, you're like, oh, I just can't, I can't do that. But not to rely on not to rely on AI, just not to
Mm.
screw us over by taking our images and then never paying us again. If you want to do that, okay, but figure out a way to pay us a residual every time you use our face. And that's going to be hard because they've already scanned thousands of people, but figure it out. And to value us more, value us as people who work so hard to make your movie, TV series, whatever it is, good. To support, as background, we support the principal actors. I mean, unless it's a movie where, there's only, there are movies that are based on plays where that's only, five people in the whole movie. But I'm going to say 95% of movies need background.
Mm.
And I was in Boston Strangler, and I was sitting with Keira Knightley, and I knew my job was to make sure she was able to have room to do her thing,
Right.
and not to try to make myself look as good as possible. Of course, I knew, I was, okay, it's, but I'm not the star.
Right.
She is. So, a greater appreciation for what people who are not in that pay grade do, because they need us. I'm sorry, they can AI everything, but it's just,
Mm.
it will look weird. It's just, you can't do it all. And you cannot get away screwing people over by taking their images. I mean, people sign, models especially sign these contracts. So every time their image is used, they get paid. And hey, if they're using their image somewhere and they're not getting paid, they sue and they win. So
So they should be able to figure it out.
they should be able to figure it out. If they're going to scan us, if they're going to use AI, they need to pay us. I'm just, again, low man on the totem pole. I don't know how they could figure that out, but figure it out. I will say for parting, reasons, I want everybody to know this is for the little guy. The rich are going to get paid the same. Meryl Streep is going to get paid the same. She's a contract, and they know this. And Meryl Streep has also been very vocal about this strike. And if you can make it to New York or make it to LA, there's also one place in Georgia and Atlanta. Hit the line, get out there and help with the strikes. People have asked what we can do in New England. You have to strike in front of a office or a studio that that is Warner Brothers or Netflix or HBO Max. And of course, New England doesn't have that presence. So people said, what about the State House? I said, well, we went there when we were looking for the tax break to not sundown. That was a political issue. This isn't a political issue. This is a SAG issue. So
So
if you
road
can make
trip?
it, yeah, hey, this week isn't good for me, but next week I'm hitting New York and I'm going to go and hit the streets, hit the picket lines because there's strength in numbers and there's a lot of us. And I have some great friends who are not in the business who have totally thrown their support behind the strike. They get it. They understand it. They know it's about corporate greed and not about a bunch of whiny people who just think they need to get paid more. No, we just want to get paid.
Yeah,
Not
that would be
more.
nice.
We just want to get paid.
Just paid, period. Right.
Exactly. And again, my girl, Leslie Jones, follow her on she was on Saturday Night Live. She's a comedian. She was, of course, in Ghostbusters in the women's version. She has she uses very colorful words. I'll say that. Don't have the kids in the room listening to it, but she is so raw and real about what this is about. And
Absolutely.
it's about corporate greed and taking advantage of people. Especially, as women, it's like, okay, well, no, no,
Right.
get out there, do what you can. If you can't get out and picket, which I know is hard for people, especially because it's only in certain areas, donate, do what you can, and put the message out there that this isn't about, and we want to entertain you. That is what we do. We are entertainers and we want to entertain you, but we
Don't
also
want to be.
need to be compensated.
All right,
So
Nicole Johan Rand, thank you so much for being with us here on the Hub on Hollywood and sharing your story. Stick with the Hub on Hollywood for more interviews like this. We continue to follow the writer's strike, the actor's strike, everything that's going down in Hollywood right now. The Hub on Hollywood is going to have you covered. Thank you again, Nicole.
thank you, Jamie, so much.